So, who are you without your business? Who are you without your soccer cleats? Who are you without your kids? Who are you without your artistry? And so on. And the question I'm really asking is when you strip away what it is that you do, who are you when everything is taken away? And that is a question that I've asked many entrepreneurs over years. Who are you without your business? To give them an opportunity to get a sense of who they are at their core. Who are they beyond the thing that either society says they are or the thing they tell society they are, etc. I'm recently just back from a preseason camp with a football team, with a professional soccer team. And one of the things that the new manager wants to do is to create an identity around the team. And he wants the team to believe that they can create and to achieve more than perhaps they have historically believed. And he's been very public with that, so I'm not sharing anything that hasn't already been put on social media. But one of the things I did one of the evenings, I had a plan, and as I got to Florida to the preseason camp, the plan kind of increasingly became less relevant, and I kind of threw the plan out the window, and I created a new plan based on what I was seeing, what I was witnessing, what I was experiencing at training, etc. And soccer is a small part of what I do. It's a very significant part for me personally because I love the game and I love the people I work with, but it's a small part of what I do in terms of the overall umbrella of what we do. Typically, we work with business owners and entrepreneurs and so on. So, but I got them to an exercise where I gave them a piece of paper and I asked them to draw who they were without the football and everything around the football. And for some of them, it became pretty straightforward. For some of them, they really struggled. This idea of identifying, how they describe and how they capture themselves. And I did it in a drawing because it's a much more profound way to get them to really feel into an exercise rather than logically think about it. And they started to come together with some ideas, and the simplicity of it was amazing. And then when they started to reflect and share, it was very obvious that so many of them shared the same thing. And I won't get into those details for obvious reasons, but and then I presented this idea, and I had these posters all around the room, these little small posters with certain metrics written on them, like goal scoring, clean sheets, points, tackles, completed passes, cups, wins, etc. And I started to point out this idea that actually, when you over-identify with what you do, you give so much of your power, so much of your identity, and so much of your value to these external metrics, which, by the way, you can't even control. You can't control these things. So you've got, yourself and 10 other players, 11 opposition players. You've got the elements, you've got the crowd, you've got the wind, the rain, the surface. You've got subs coming in. You've got the pressures. You've got the social media. You've got cameras. You've got, so many different variables that you cannot control. So number one is, why try to control the uncontrollable? And two is, why give so much of your value, so much of your identity to external metrics that these other people have huge control and influence over as it relates to your life? I'm not saying that they shouldn't matter. I'm not saying these things we shouldn't care about. And I'm not saying these things we shouldn't measure. I'm not saying these things shouldn't be things that we aspire towards or aspire away from, but not to over-identify with those things. And I would offer the same thing to mums and dads. I would offer the same things to business owners and entrepreneurs. I do see them slightly differently. I would offer the same things to writers and creatives. Because if you over-identify with the very thing that you do, and that thing doesn't go well, or it isn't received well, or it's rejected or pushed back, that tends to undermine the essence of who we were and who we are at the core. And one of the examples, and it's not a very pleasant one to talk about, during the big, kind of global meltdown and recession, financial crisis that we went through a number of years ago, not just in Ireland, but in different parts of the world, people took their own lives when they lost their businesses. And I'm not here to belittle the pain and the anguish and the challenges that came with that and all the fallout that came with that. But many of those people over-identified with what it is they had created and what they had built. And then when that was taken away, or that was lost, or that was destroyed or sabotaged, or whatever way you want to call that, they felt they had nothing left to live for. And to me, I think that's a tragic place to be. I don't mean that in a judgmental way, but just in terms of an observational way. And something, I've over-identified with was the work I do. Like, the work I do is so important to me, and I do believe so important to humanity, waking people up and helping people understand how brilliant, how magnificent, how beautiful they really are, and to put a value on themselves and the things they do naturally, and bring those things to the world and become more visible and make an impact in the world and bring our lives alive, and then bring other people around us alive. But I have over-identified with that, and there's an exhaustion that comes with that, and and I still to some extent over-identify with it. It's too much a part of the essence of who I am. It makes up too much of who I am. And I would encourage you to really think about, like, even do the exercise, do the drawing, and draw an image of who you are. And what you'll find is it's really simplistic. And it brings you back as a reminder to who you are, who you were, who you've perhaps always been at the core. And then, and only then, and this is what I did with the players, I layered in another drawing, and I got them to do a drawing incorporating football. And what it did was it landed differently for them. There was a degree of ownership and separation all at the same time, this beautiful dance between the thing they do and the essence of who they are, but it wasn't overly meshed together. And then I got them to identify who they want to be aspirationally, and then understand the gap between where they are right now and where they are in the future. And not to see that as a battering ram to beat the shit out of themselves, but an opportunity to aspire to become the player that they know deep down they can be if they can get out of their own way. So it's something I would like to leave you with, something I'd like you to reflect upon, something I'd like you to think about, because it really is very important. And the reality is, as you sit here today listening to this or watching this, you may not see the value in it right now. And the value only becomes apparent, but you might have a cyclical patterning or a sequence that happens every so often when you get your numbers and you look at your spreadsheet and you realize your business isn't doing as well, or whatever it happens to be. You might find that affects you. And in an upward trajectory, in other words, an up market, that's fine. But when things start to tail off and things don't go well, or the markets shift, then what you're doing is you're giving so much of your power away to external forces, which I really think is unfortunate, because that energy pulls you down, and then you're not as available to yourself and to everybody else and to the mission and the things that you could be doing in the world. So that is my ask, my reflection, my share today, and I hope you're well, and wherever in the world you are, take care.